Hi everyone, it's Lindy on here from Pink Whisper Designs. Today we're going to make this super fun little owl birthday card. For stamps we're using these art impression stamps. We're going to be using the owl, the present, the cupcake, the flower, and that little party hat as well. And this set does come with the coordinating dies. And this set is called the Lovable Animals Set. For paper today I'm using the Strathmore Bristol Smooth 100-pound cardstock. And I'm placing that in my Misty stamp positioner. So I'm going to grab all these little images here. And then again, we're going to be stamping a few extras of the flowers and the presents. So I'm just going to lay these out. I'll be inking these up using my VersaFine Onyx Black ink. But first I'm going to prep these stamps just a little bit by rubbing them with my hand. The owl I hadn't used yet, so I just want to take any little film off the top of it that might be on there. So then I can go ahead and apply my ink and stamp these. I did end up stamping these a couple of times. And again, I'm going to stamp a few more of the presents and the flowers as well. For coloring today, I'm using sugared almond pink, orange, mid brown, and beige. And these are the Zig Clean Color Real Brush pens. And these are a water-based pen, so I'm using the coordinating blender pen to do my blending. And here I've started with the pink on the cheeks, a little bit of beige here right around the edges, and I'm just pulling that in. And then I'll use some beige here on the tummy as well. And I'm just adding a little bit more of that color at the bottom just to create a little bit of a shadow there. Then I'm going to go in with that darker brown and add a little bit more shading up here at the top on his ears and around the top of his head. And then going back to the beige, I'm going to do the wings and the bottom portion of him. And then I'll go back to that darker brown to add some shadowing. Just kind of placing it here on the tips of the wings and then pulling that up, just leaving the top of the wings the lightest there. And then I'll do the same thing down here at the bottom. So if you like this little lovable animal set, check out a couple videos I've done previously, which I will link to below, and I'll also link on my blog, and I do have them listed up above there as well. I did a lovable Valentine card with shimmer powders, and I also did a slimline quilted birthday card where I created a whole bunch of watercolor backgrounds and then die cut those in little quilt hexagon shapes. And so the background of the card looks like a quilt. So you might enjoy that because you could use that quilt background for many other things. So if you get a chance, take a look at those videos. You might enjoy them. And here I'm just applying a little bit of color up underneath his body here and then pulling that down. And then I'll go back to that orange and add a little bit of that to the tips of his toes here. So let's go ahead and color in the cupcake with cornflower blue, deep red, platinum brown, and beige. I'm going to put that color down towards the bottom. That's the platinum brown. And then I'll just pull that up towards the top there. A little bit of beige for the cupcake portion here. And then that red. And I'll apply that down towards the edges. And then later on I'll pull that up to the top. I'm just going to add a little bit of that cornflower blue to the confetti there, or the little sprinkles there. And then I'll pull that red up towards the top, leaving the top the lightest. So next we'll color in the little party hat, and I'm using that same red, just applying the color to one side and then pulling over towards the left here. And I'll use that same cornflower blue, just add a little color here around the edges. And then I'm going back to that orange color and adding a little to these little pom-poms. So the next thing we'll color in are the little flowers. And I'm using light brown, bright yellow, mid green, and olive green. I'll start with that lighter green, and then I'm just going to apply a little bit of the darker green and just blend those two together. And then here I'm going to use the bright yellow and just put that darkest area in the center and then pull out towards the tips. And then I'll go to that light brown and just put a little bit of that around the inside of the flower and pull that out, just very slightly here. And then I'll add a little bit to the center. Now with Persian green, I'm going to color in this first package, and I colored all those other flowers in off camera the exact same way. And for these packages, I'm just going to show you how I colored in one of these, but I will show you the colors I used for the other two here in a minute. So I'm going to go ahead and blend these out. And I love this Persian green color. It's just so pretty. So I'm just adding a little shadowing here and kind of pulling that down from underneath the lid of the box. And then for the ribbon on this one, I went to the bright yellow. So for that next box, I used violet for the box and orange for the ribbon. And for the last one, I used cornflower blue and deep red. And you can see those up close. So now that those are all set, I'm going to grab my coordinating dies. I'll go ahead and tape those down with a little bit of purple tape. And I really love that this set has the coordinating dies, and you also get that little bonus die there, that heart as well, which again I did use in another video. So here I like to place a piece of scrap paper over my dies when I'm running them through. Since I've taken all that time to color those in, I don't want anything to get damaged. And there you can see it cut out the little slots to hold either a flower, a package, or the cupcake in our case here. So now I've got my Woodgrain Fancy die from Hero Arts, and this cuts a beautiful wood grain pattern. You definitely want to put it on a little bit of an angle when you run it through your die cutting machine. It'll make it a lot easier to run it through. And then with brushed corduroy and ground espresso, I'm going to color this in, this wood panel in. And you'll see that wood grain start to appear as I start adding some color here. So I applied that brushed corduroy all over the background, a nice even coating, and now I'm just adding a few little darker areas here with the ground espresso. And then I'm going back to the brushed corduroy and I'm just going to blend that out. You can just keep adding little areas of color here and there. And then what I did want to do is frame the whole thing with that ground espresso. So I'm going to go all the way around the edges with this color. That's just going to kind of frame this panel a little bit. And then you can see we have some light and dark areas on our wood grain. And I'm just blending that out just a little bit more here. So now that that's all set, I'm going to grab one of my circle dies. And these are the circle double stitch dies from Art Impressions. And I'm grabbing the one that will fit that little owl the best. And so that looks pretty good there. I'm going to die cut a little hole in the tree here, up towards the top of this panel, and I'll go ahead and tape that down with some purple tape. And then I'll run that through the die cutting machine. And again, these are the circle double stitch dies. So again, I've placed some scrap paper over the top of that. And then I'm going to attach this to a black 100-pound cardstock. And I've cut that panel to the same exact size. I've used my ATG 700 tape to attach these two together. And it didn't line up perfectly there, so I'm just going to cut away a little of that excess. So now with a piece of cardstock 5.5 by 8.5, I'm going to score this at 4.25. So this will be a standard A2 size card. Now I can go ahead and attach this panel to the front of my card, and it will be the exact same size as the front of the card. So now to create a little grassy border, I'm grabbing the Hero Hues premium cardstock in the color Meadow. And this is a 100-pound cardstock. So I've cut it to the 4.25 width, and then I'm just going to use my scissors to cut a couple little grassy borders here. And I'll stack these up one in front of the other. So I'm going to cut them a little bit different from each other. So now that I have those, I'm using my Rustic Wilderness, which is a really pretty dark green, and I'm going to apply a little bit of color to the tops of these grassy borders. So I'm just going to apply just a small amount here up at the top and just blend that down a little bit. And I'll do the same thing for that other panel as well. Now with my Nuvo Deluxe adhesive, I'm going to attach these, and I don't want to put glue up at the very top there because I am going to be tucking in a few things later on. So I'm going to just make sure that's lined up right at the bottom of this panel, and then I'll pop up this second one with a little bit of Scotch foam mounting tape. And again, I'll line that up right along the bottom there. So now I've got my little owl with the cupcake, and if I apply some foam adhesive to the back, that'll hold that cupcake right in place. So I don't need to add any additional glue there. I'm just going to pop this whole thing up. And this new Scotch foam mounting tape is super, super sticky. So I'm using my bone folder there just to press that backing down, and then it makes it a little bit easier to remove that backing. So now I've got that owl in place, and I'm going to add the little party hat here. So I'll put a little glue down towards the bottom and then a little bit of foam mounting tape on the top of the hat, just so it'll lay nice and flat against our little owl here. Now let's go ahead and add the little birthday presents down at the bottom. And for this, I'll use a combination of the glue and the foam mounting tape as well. Now I can go ahead and attach the flowers. And I did leave a little space on these borders so that I can slide these little items down in there. This one I'll use a little foam mounting tape as well as the glue, again just so it lays level here with my card. And then I'll just cut off any excess. So I'll continue tucking these in. So once that is all set, I'm going to take my Uniball Signo white gel pen and I'm going to add some highlights. And again, this will just make everything pop out. And here I'm just going to add a few little polka dots to this present. So you can have some fun with this and just add a little bit of interest. I'm adding some highlights on the top of those grassy borders as well. And then on the stems of all my little flowers. And here on the hat and on the owl. And again, this just makes everything pop a little bit more. Now I'm going to use the sentiment from the Birdhouse Cubbies Set. And I've placed that in my MISTI, but I removed that foam pad because our card is very thick now. We've added that foam mounting tape. Now you could certainly have stamped this prior to attaching everything, but I wasn't sure exactly where I would want that sentiment. So I've removed the foam pad, and I realized that the stamp still wasn't going to touch that cardstock. So I've taken a stack of cardstock, maybe 3 or 4 pieces there, and placed it right behind my image here. And that just raises it up just enough so that I can do my stamping. So I've inked it up again with the VersaFine Onyx Black ink, and I'm going to stamp that a couple times. So again, I just placed a couple pieces of cardstock behind this. So you do want to play around with that just to make sure you get the height just right to do your stamping. And again, you could certainly have stamped it prior to attaching everything. So now I've got these little shimmers, sparklets from Buttons Galore and More, and I will list all the products I've used today down below and on my blog as well. And I'm going to go ahead and attach one to the center of each of those flowers, which really adds a lot of dimension, and then a few up towards the top here as well. So let's take a closer look at the finished card. And I just think this little owl is adorable. He's just so much fun. And you can see how much dimension those little baubles add to the centers of our flowers. So I really hope you enjoyed today's video. If you did, please hit the like button and subscribe. And also don't forget to hit that notification bell so that you don't miss a single video. I hope you all have a great day, and thank you so much for joining me. As always, you know I really appreciate it. Take care. Bye-bye.